Rahubat, which translates as greetings. Anuki Nahasanan Amun, and I am a student teacher of the master teacher, Bʀᴏᴛᴇʀ, also known as the Sovereign Grand Commander, His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Tğᴇ Exᴛʀᴜᴜᴜ, 33 degrees over 720 degrees. He is Brother John. Before I begin reading, we want to start off by stating that the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Tğᴇ Exᴛʴ�ᴜᴜ, is innocent, and all of the charges and allegations brought against him are false, and he is about to come home to be among us again physically, so be ready. This audiobook is entitled Mᴜᴛ Pᴛᴜᴜᴜᴜ, My Brother the Extraterrestrial, and was written by his sister, Mᴜᴛ, whom we true Nuwapian Sabians affectionately call Auntie. This audiobook contains questions, along with his answers, that were asked to the master during her visits to see him. Now let's begin. My Brother the Extraterrestrial. Introduction. I watched him change from a little boy seeing things to this miraculous man, my master teacher and extraterrestrial. Starting from when we were children, I have seen things that let me know that my brother was different from the rest, such as 1. Because of the mysterious circumstances and conditions in which he was born, none of us actually know the mystery behind his actual birth and the happenings in behind it, where he was really born or when. 2. Things he did were not normal. 3. He never spent time with animals, like most children. He avoided dogs, but liked cats. 4. He could just walk up to a foreigner and speak their tongue. 5. He could tell what others were thinking and say what you were about to say. 6. He knew all the star maps of the sky, constellations, and pointed out by strange names many unknown. 7. He could read the symbols of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. 8. There were not many things he could not do. Draw, playing music, sing, you name it. 9. He was very physically strong. He could run real fast, jump, even disappear. 10. He could tell you what is going to happen in the news, such as who is going to die, and he even can speak to the dead. 11. He knew the workings of the human body and the universe. Other witnesses say, My name is Abka Ray Atun, Evelyn Sanders. Hatep. This is an experience I had with the master teacher. I got a call about 6 a.m. on Saturday morning saying that my father-in-law had fell out. So we rushed to the hospital to be there with my mother-in-law and her family. After a while, we took her out of the room where he was, and we went to a little room to the side. After we had all gotten in there to sit down, all of a sudden the phone rang, and I was sitting by the phone, and at first I didn't know if I should answer it. I was wondering, who is that? So they told me to answer the phone. And when I answered it, it was Partner Bʀᴏᴛᴜᴜ on the phone. And he greeted me, and he asked how my mother-in-law was doing. And he asked if he could be there, of any assistance, and that he sent his love. But my thing was, we had just walked in the room. How did he know we were in the room we just walked in? How did he know where we were? I was so overjoyed to hear his voice, and he was just calling for my father-in-law, checking on us and loving on us. He always has our back. My name is Hatshepsut Anukis, Lord Muhammad. This is one of his revelations to me. In the month of May 2010, a bone got stuck in my throat. It happened on a Saturday, and I was taken to the hospital on the Monday after trying all weekend to get it out. With all that was given to me, nothing helped. I was in a lot of pain when I arrived at the emergency ward. I was given an x-ray and the bone was seen. So the ENT doctor put me to sleep and he said he would get it out, which he did try to do, but when he put that light down my throat, he just could not find the bone. So I went back for another x-ray and a CAT scan. It was seen. So they called in the ENT surgeon, and she said she would do an outside surgery. But when she got in there, no bone was found again. So I was sent to another CAT scan, and they kept trying. I got 5 CAT scans and 2 x-rays. You can see the bone in the x-ray and CAT scan, but when they tried to get it, it wasn't there. So the doctor said she would send me to Emory Hospital, but when she called, the throat surgeon was not there. So she called Grady Hospital, and the doctor needed was on vacation, but he did get back to her and advised her not to give me that outside surgery because that is a 50-50 chance of success. Because when you do the outside surgery, the esophagus closes up sometimes when healing, and I might have to be fed with a tube. So when she said that, I called on the Natharu for help, and 2 nights after, my son who has died and is on the other side came to me and asked, "How am I doing?" And I told him, "I am doing good." And I was about to walk out the door, and he told me I can stay. It was all right, but I told him I would leave him in his peace and close the door. And I went and lay on my bed, and when I did that, I heard the door open, and I saw Bʀᴏᴛ and called out his name, but he did not answer. He was in his AO attire, and he went down on his knees. He clapped his hands over his chest and started to pray. When he was done, he left without saying a word. When I got up that morning, the nurse came and told me to get ready because they have to do another CAT scan. So I went, and they did 2 CAT scans, and no bone was found. I was overwhelmed, but at that moment, I knew that was the power of the Natharu. That was what Bʀᴏᴛ was doing, surgery on me, removing the bone. I am so grateful for having him in my life. I love you and just want to give you that hug of love. My name is Kaktet Hababtet Hutiptet Ba, Levan Pinder. I have 7 miracles I have seen. Miracle 1. I have witnessed Bʀᴏᴛ while he was speaking to a younger sister and myself, transform from being a tall person to a short person. This occurred while he was standing in front of us. Miracle 2. While we were living in upstate New York, I was in the house with him when I saw him have a conversation with little grayish-green individuals that were not human. They were extraterrestrials. He was speaking to them in a tone and language that I did not recognize. I saw this with my own eyes. Miracle 3. I have witnessed Bʀᴏᴛ raise himself from the floor a few seconds and then return back to the floor. Miracle 4. There was a time when Bʀᴏᴛ and a few of us were in upstate New York. We were on his terrace at his house. He showed us an unidentified flying object that was hovering, and he communicated with them telepathically and with mouth movement and no sound. It came close to us, then sped away from us, and then vanished. Whoever was controlling the UFO, he told us he answered their question with no problem. Miracle 5. There was a sister that had a very bad illness. I can't recall what the illness was specifically, but I did witness him healing her. He asked her for her hands. He then put her hands in between his hands and kept it like that for a short time. He then told her to remove her hands gently and slowly from his hands. He told her that she will no longer suffer again. A week later, she revealed to another sister that she was healed from her illness and she was with child, something that she always wanted. Miracle 6. While in upstate New York, I witnessed him leave his house, get into his car, and leave to go into town. I watched him from his window in his house as the car drove away until he was out of my sight. My sisters and some other girls went into his movie room to watch a movie. We looked and saw him sitting in the movie room in front of us watching a movie called A Fish Called Wanda, and there was no way he could have walked past us and we didn't see him. We were surprised to see him, and when we looked outside, the car was in the driveway like it never moved. Until this day, I do not know how he got back in the movie room to sit and watch a movie, and he started the movie without us. Wow. Miracle 7. I witnessed him change from his normal humanoid to transform into a being that was tall, with olive-toned skin. Its arms were long, slanted dark eyes, thin lips, little hair, small nose, and a slender body. I do not know what being that was. He did this while walking from one room to the next. He looked at me and smiled when he returned to the room I was in. Wow. My name is Christopher Clark. For me, it was 2 encounters. I was upstate on Mount Zion. It was raining hard. We were trying to get to the 19 classes. We got up struggling hard. The road was slippery. We finally made it, and it continued to rain until Pops came out. All of a sudden, the rain stopped. He taught class, and after he left, as he walked inside, it started raining again. It was funny, because we all got drenched. Pop said, "Every time you come up here, it rains." The second encounter was on the land of Tamaré of 96. As we were approaching the land, we saw 2 ships hovering around. Bʀᴏᴛ came out to beat the drums. Pop looked up, and the ships hovered above everyone. Some people saw it, and they started chanting, and then a person broke the circle and started yelling, "For they were watching you," and now they flew away. Pops got up and walked away shaking his head. It is beautiful to know who Bʀᴏᴛ really is based on those who accept who Pops is. It is beautiful to be in his presence. Sakina Parham, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Once, when my 3-month baby was sick with a high fever, Bʀᴏᴛ held him in his arms, and in a brief moment, he was well. Another time, I remember one morning I came to work really early so I could get this project done before noon. I sat at my computer for 3 hours, straight waiting for it to boot up and start. It would not start for anything. I didn't understand what the problem was, so I turned off the computer for a while. When I turned it back on, it was still acting crazy. I had turned it off and on a couple of times, and each time it did the same thing. About 12:15 p.m., I decided to give up. I turned off the computer and laid my head down. When I fell asleep, I saw his face. Bʀᴏᴛ said, "Well, turn on the computer." Hearing his voice woke me up instantly because it sounded as if he was standing right over me. I looked around at people asking if they had heard Bʀᴏᴛ's voice. No one understood what I was talking about. So I turned on the computer and it started right up, as it usually does every morning. I was very shocked. I don't know what this short dream meant. However, I know that my computer started after Bʀᴏᴛ told me to turn it on in the dream. Lois Y. Eddington, Queens, New York. There was a tragedy in which several of the brothers were stabbed. One brother was stabbed several times, critically injuring him. He was rushed to Wycroft Hospital along with the others. The doctor listed him in critical condition. He had a fatal wound below his heart to his liver, with part of it torn away and bleeding profusely and needing a blood transfusion. He was lying there with oxygen tubes running down his nose, IVs in his arms, tubes throughout his body, and hooked up to an EKG machine. This incident seemed to have left him on his deathbed. The very same day of the incident, Bʀᴏᴛ comforted him and embraced him with his blessings. He assured the brother that regardless of what the doctors diagnosed, he would be all right and that he would live through all of this. The next day, he was fully conscious and talking. The third day, he was talking and eating. Within a week's time, he was out of the intensive care unit. The following week, he was out of the hospital and back home and feeling fine. He was surely proven to be a miracle. The doctors called it a miraculous recovery in the medical history. What do you say? Barbara Noel, Panama. When I became a part of the organization in 1986 AD, my baby son started to have loose bowel movements all the time. By the time we took him to the doctor, and he was sent for blood tests to find out what was wrong. His blood test showed that he had such a high elevated amount of white blood cells that was not even normal for a sick person, according to the lab technician. Anyhow, When we got back home, I wrote Pʛᴏᴛ about Tariq's, my son's, condition, and as soon as he gave me a reply to my letter, Tariq started to get better, to the extent that he did not have to return to the doctor for any medical treatment. Tmega. Are you ready? Well, while working in Ramesses as the DJ in the DJ booth on the land, the master walked up in the DJ booth to talk to the Aleem twins who played in the band for Jimi Hendrix. Well, while in their conversation, the twins started talking about this instrument that Jimi Hendrix was working on that could play sounds outside of Earth's sounds that we hear on Earth. They were trying to find the blueprints that Jimi Hendrix was working on. So all of a sudden, Jimi Hendrix, LOL, started talking through Pops to give the info to the Aleem twins. He said that the blueprints were at Jimi Hendrix's sister's house in the attic in the trunk and gave them all the details. They went back and forth for a short time, and the twins were asking Jimi Hendrix questions that only Jimi could answer. It was different to witness this happen before my eyes. I felt very nervous because I felt the presence of another person in the room. And when I looked at the master, his face looked so different. So I looked away and just listened to the conversation. Also, throughout the conversation, Pop said Jimi Hendrix was from Risk. That experience was amazing to witness the master do this before my eyes. Barbara Noel, Panama. Pʛᴏᴛ at this time used to spend a lot of time around the children. I remember once a few of the children had bad chest colds. When the Supreme Grand Master would come in contact with the sick child, he would put his hands on the child's chest for a few moments. Afterwards, the child seemed to be able to breathe better. After doing this for a while, he would have contracted so much cold into his body that he would have to revive his body back to normal. So one day, as he was walking up the road, I called out to him, "May I ask you a question?" And he said, "That was a question." "I know, for real." He said, "Go ahead." I said, "Why do you get sick after you heal others?" He smiled and said, "True love flows." Haru Hotep, Amedo Varma, Liberia, Africa. I have been a follower of Pʛᴏᴛ since 1985 AD. In all of this time, I've witnessed many events which some might refer to as deep, yet I refer to them as definite miracles. One which sticks out is that in June of 1988 AD, I saw Pʛᴏᴛ and spoke to him. At this time, he stood at least 6 foot 4 inches to 6 foot 6 inches in height, with dark black purple complexion, and had thin facial features. Then 2 weeks later, on his birthday, June 26 AD, 1988 AD, I again spoke with him, and this time embraced him. As he walked away, I noticed he was shorter than me. I stand 5 feet 7.5 inches, and he couldn't have been more than 5 feet 5 inches, and his complexion was now caramel, with a round face and facial features. As I thought to myself, he's shorter than me, and now he's lighter than me. He turned and smiled, as if he truly read my mind. We locked eyes, and then he continued to walk away. Say what you will, but to see a man in a matter of 2 weeks go from 6 feet 4 inches to 5 feet 5 inches and change not only his complexion, but features, that you can't fake if you wanted to. I was 15 years old at the time. I know Pʛᴏᴛ is truly the master teacher. Nicole Lopez, Panama. One time, upstate, a couple of us were playing around in the office with Pʛᴏᴛ. He ran away. We were trying to find him. We ran around and looked out the window and saw him downstairs walking away from the building. As we ran down the hall so we could catch up with him, we ran right into him. We were hysterical. So we said, "We just saw him walking outside. That's impossible. He couldn't have ran that fast." Pʛᴏᴛ just laughed. My name is Nababtet Hatet Senantet Amun, Laquandia Debnam. On September 27, 2011, I was in the west end of Atlanta, and I saw Partner Bʀᴏᴛ riding a bicycle down Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard. It was so crazy. I was just walking down the street, and someone looked at me. I looked over, and it was Partner Bʀᴏᴛ. I was so shocked, I stumbled. I started screaming, Partner Bʀᴏᴛ. Then I started running to my car to try to catch him. I jumped in my car and drove all around the area, street after street, but he was nowhere to be found. Speaking of bikes, I was in Trinidad. I saw a man riding a bike. I looked and called out to the person I was with. That man looks like my brother. The person I was with said, "What man?" And I looked, and he had disappeared in the blink of an eye. I don't like to put it this way, but he is strange. My brother is in fact an extraterrestrial, accept it or not, I know. When he was a child, at times he would disappear from home. He wouldn't come home for a while, and when he did come back, his nose would be bleeding and he looked disheveled and would say he had been abducted. And being a child at the time, I did not know what was going on. We would say to my brother, "Get in here. Where have you been? You had everyone worried. They were looking for you all over. We all got in trouble because of you." Another time, when I went to visit my brother, who was at the time living with my grandmother in Teaneck, New Jersey, it happened again. I was at the house waiting for him to come from school. It was getting dark, so my grandmother, who was in a wheelchair, told me to go and look to see if my brother Duke, that's what she called him, was coming, because it's late and he should have been home by now. I walked up the road towards the overpass where the bus stops, and he was coming from under the overpass, but there was no bus. He looked frightened, unusually disturbed to me, and I saw lights hovering around him, and then they just disappeared at a very fast speed and out of sight. He looked sad, so I asked him, "Are you all right? And what was that?" He said they were aliens and took him. Yes, again, at that time I was young and didn't know what it was. Doc has always been talking about aliens and abductions since he was a little boy, and we didn't even know what that meant, and we didn't have a television back then. As my brother recounted the story to me, when I was 9, on the dark road coming back from Uall to Teaneck, New Jersey, when I first saw them, this one was being abused by his captors. It was on TV, real ones, sis. One of the good ones, not the evil ones. So I was hurt. I could see in his big fly eyes pain. They were hurting him, sis. They don't know he saved their very lives many times. If it were not for the Zetas of Orion, Earth would have been taken over by the evil greys under the reptilians years ago. I think they said he died shortly after. Saad said he knew that one was a doctor. As an adult in Brooklyn, New York, me, my brother, and Yaya were at my mother's house, and we were praying. He told us to look at the wall, and he made a light appear in the wall. Even after seeing everything, it was still weird for me. People have seen him in one place, while others have seen him in another place at the same time, which is called teleporting. When we had the temple on Bushwick Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, some disgruntled Sunni Muslims came after my brother. He was standing on the stoop, and all of a sudden, when we looked around, he was no longer there. We didn't even see him move. When we looked up, he was at another building, down the block and across the street, standing on the stoop looking at us. Since his incarceration, I have continued to visit him and have seen miraculous things occur. One weekend, I was at a visit with my brother, and all of a sudden he said he wanted to show me something. And I said, "What?" He proceeded to stand. He stepped back to the corner of the visiting booth, and he started levitating with shackles attached around his ankles. I told him, "Stop that, come down." I was shaking, and I asked him, why did he do that? And he simply replied, "They told me to." I asked, "Who told you?" He said, "The elders," and he named them. There were 4 at the time. At visits, sometimes he sits with his hands on the flat concrete surface in front of him. On one occasion, He had his hands on the flat surface, turned them over, and held them up to the glass, and a brown crystal-like dust came out of his hands. It looked like fine sand. There was no way he could have been holding that dust in his hands, because when he came to the visit booth, which has a thick glass that separates us, his hands are shackled behind him. Then they take the shackles off his wrists before even allow him to sit down. There are things that I, as his sister, have no explanation for, except he is who he is, an extraterrestrial. These are my experiences traveling with my brother and my master teacher. Within the last few years, I saw him come to me at home in different forms, and he also came in a green light, bouncing around my room geometrically. At one point, while lying there wondering what it was going to do next, it came right in front of my face where I was laying on the pillow and just lingered there. And I shut my eyes. And you know what? When I opened my eyes, it was still there. I've seen my brother one height at times, and he was tall, and at other times he presented himself short, where he was almost my height, tall, then short, then back to where I thought was his regular height. I see him really young, and other times I've seen him look older, like an elder. These are things I've seen with my own eyes, which lead me to know he is an extraterrestrial, because he couldn't do these things as an ordinary man. Questioning the Master Teacher, Bʀᴏᴛ Nuwapian Study Series 1, February 12, 2003, Jones County Jail. Number 1. Greetings, Master Teacher. I know you are my brother, yet I respect you as my master first. I understand. One day you will call me the Father, so I'm fine with that. 1. Question. I know you have been through a lot since last year. I want you to know many love you and will fight for your return. May I ask you some questions? Answer. Yes, of course. That is why I have incarnated into this flesh. 2. Question. Just what is Wunuwap saying? Answer. Well, it took me many more years than anticipated, from 1963 AD back to 1953 AD, on up to 1973 AD, then 1983 AD. I had to create so many schools just to reach my own people. On June 26, 1993 AD, as the United Nuwapian Nation, a retained sovereign people, number 215/1993 and 208/1999 AD, with self-determination. 3. Question. By your own people, do you mean black people? Answer. No, not at all. I mean Afafreye-Gao, Africans, and others who are ready to face and accept Pamadatat, the words, Pahakaktal Hakak, the actual facts. 4. Question. And by that, you mean accept Wunuwap? Answer. No, not really. What I mean is accept who they are, what they became, and their purpose. Wunuwap is our culture, and animism is our za'am, religion, opinion. Animism is from Latin, anima, soul, the opinion that all life is produced by spiritual force. All natural phenomena have spirit, Latin, spirit, breathe. 5. Question. And just what is our purpose? Answer. Well, if you mean here on this Kawak planet, that is one thing. And if you mean as a living being, that is another. I will say this. I came to clean my own inside out and outside inward, so they can be transported home to Sabatat, Sirius, and Za'at, Orion, which I taught is Ilyun, Quran, chapter 83, verse 18 through 19. Regardless, verily, the scripture ledger of the righteous is in Ilyun. And what shall make you perceive what Ilyun is? Translation by Al-Mahdi, Planet Rizq. Quran, chapter 83, verse 18 through 19. Translation by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Nay, verily, The record of the righteous is preserved in Ilion. 19. And what will explain to thee what Ilion is? Quran, chapter 83, verse 18 through 19. Translation by Maulana Muhammad Ali. Nay, surely the record of the righteous is in the highest places. 19. And what will make thee to know what the highest places are? Quran, chapter 34, verse 4. For him to recompense, reward those who trust in their work. These are those of you, for them will be forgiven, and a generous place. Translation by Al-Mahdi. Quran, chapter 34, verse 4. Translation by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. That he may be rewarded, those who believe and work deeds of righteousness. For such is forgiveness and a sustenance most generous. Quran, chapter 34, verse 4. Translation by Maulana Muhammad Ali. That he may reward those who believe and do good. For them is forgiveness and an honorable sustenance. Number 6. Question. Please explain. You see, for 6,000 years, our people have been under a kind of hypnotic spell of sleep. Ḥurqay Shalal Dawam, a zombie state of mind in order to be used as cattle or chattel. 7. Question. Chattel? And what does that mean? Answer. Chattel is the same as cattle. They are cows, sheep, bulls, steers, and oxen, and all farm animals. Even man is a form of stock, calves, herd called firstlings of a flock. 8. Question. You mean to say we are animals? Answer. Yes, that is an actual fact to the beings that came to the planet to hunt and shop for food, barah, as well as for minerals and resources. 9. Question. I don't think I understand you right. Just what are you saying? Answer. I'm saying I came to remove the hypnotic spell of amnesia on my people cast over them 6,000 years ago by flesh-eating extraterrestrials who pretend to be Kahan, divine, or Ratat, God, deity, over a form of mental enslavement called Aqad, faith, belief, and Za'amat, religions, opinions. 10. Question. So you're saying that the religions taught to us over the years as found in the Bible and Quran is a trick? Answer. Yes, that is the actual fact. And that state of mind, while in blind faith, makes you the same as chattel, to be offered at death or killed in so many ways. They in religions call it religious rituals or rites of offerings, sacrifices, obligation of any kind, both animals and humans, as you read in their Torah, book of Leviticus, chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and other places. 11. Question. But I thought that was only beasts, birds, bovine, not humans, right? Answer. Wrong. Reread them very closely. Look up each word and you will see the lust for blood and flesh and how much Yahweh of Elohim loves the smell of cooking flesh, sweet savor. Leviticus chapter 6, verse 14 through 21. 12. Question. I will do that. I will reread that. And is that the same for the Muslims' religion? Answer. Yes. It's the same deities over the Quran or Quran as the Torah or Bible, Old and New Testaments, as well as many other scrolls they do not include in the binds of the Bible or call these books, lost scrolls or apocrypha, hidden. Let's take a look at the word the Muslims use for food in Arabic. It is the word da'am. It actually means grafting, according to the Elias English Arabic Pocket Dictionary. They would never even see that they were being grafted to become food. This is the same word found under Hebrew Strong's, number 2939, da'am, to give, to taste, to eat, to feed. They are the same root letters, slightly different in pronunciation. This all ties into the grafting of cows, birds, etc., that these priests were taught to sacrifice on the altar and to use the blood as a burnt offering, because God liked the scent or sweet savor. Sounds like a bloodlusting God. This ritual is continued even today in Mecca, where thousands of goats are slaughtered or sacrificed, and all of them are not even given to feed the poor. As they claim, in Christism, the body of Christ and his blood are symbolically offered and consumed in communion, called the Eucharist. The whole crucifixion was a human sacrifice, where Jesus was literally pinned to a cross and stabbed with a spear, and the blood ran out of his side. What God needs to be appeased by flesh and blood? Well, physical beings eat flesh, food. A spiritual being or an angel or even an unseen God of the Muslims would not need to eat flesh. However, an absent God could eat flesh. Being absent means you were here before, on earth physically, in order to be called absent. Now you can be unseen after you were absent. Yet, you cannot be absent if you were never here or were never present. In Quran, chapter 2, verse 3, they use bil-ghaibi, meaning by way of being absent, right now. In Quran, chapter 2, verse 29, it states, Allah created all that is in the planet Earth, then after that he rose upward toward the heavens, skies, and there made 7 heavens. Translation by Al-Mahdi. God came to Abraham in Genesis chapter 18 and ate flesh. Genesis chapter 18 verse 1 through 4 and 8. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away. I pray thee, from thy servant, let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. This God appeared, stood, so he had feet, and ate flesh. These are the very physical attributes for a physical being, according to their own Bible and Quran. 13. Question. So you came to teach that? Answer. Yes, that and so much more. Yet first I must wake my own from that evil spell of ignorance, so they will return the religion of others to them and accept what is rightfully theirs. ᴜᴜᴜ. 14. Question. So that is the reason for you teaching so many religions over the years from 1970 AD? Answer. Yes, that is the actual fact. I gave what they asked of me until I was able to give what I came to give. So we played many roles, acted our religious rites, dress, prayed and chants. For whenever I stood before them to teach, they would ask me about others' religions and cultures. So I gave them what they wanted until they learned to want what I came to give. 15. Question. Why have you just not taught that? Answer. Because if I were to tell a Hebrew Israelite, a Rasta, a Moorish American, Nation of Islam, 5%ers, a Sunni Muslim convert, a Christian, and others who believe in their religions, that their beliefs are really from Mesopotamia, that their god or gods are the Anunnaki or Anakim, flesh eaters, Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and the spirit of Elohim, gods, moved, hovered upon over the face surface of the waters. The spirit came down to Taha or Daha, earth, while it was still underwater. The same as Quran chapter 97 verse 4. The heavenly hosts, all the angels, and the Holy Soul, Jesus, were revealed, and it was granted permission by their Lord, Rab, who controls all things. Translation by Al-Mahdi. Quran, chapter 97, verse 4. The angels and the spirits descend in it by the permissions of their Lord. Translation by Maulana Muhammad Ali. Quran, chapter 97, verse 4. Herein come down the angels and the spirit by Allah's permission, and every errand. Translation by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. This spirit came down to Taha, earth, from above, to Ahmed ben Abdallah in the year 610 AD. From where? Then say your Quran tells you from where. Quran, chapter 53, verse 49, tells you from Sabatat, Sirius star system. And surely he that is Allah, he is master of the Satirs of the Sirius dog star system. Translation by Al-Mahdi. Quran, chapter 53, verse 49. And he that is the Lord of Sirius. Translation by Maulana Muhammad Ali. Quran, chapter 53, verse 49. That he is the Lord of Sirius, the mighty star. Translation by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. They would see it, yet reject it. And the Quran says in Quran chapter 2, verse 29, he created all in the earth. Then he rose upward towards the sky, heaven, and made 7 of them, 7 stars of Orion. Translation by Al-Mahdi. Quran chapter 2, verse 29. He, it is who created for you all that is in the earth, and he directed himself to the heaven. So he made them complete 7 heavens, and he is the knower of all things. Translation by Maulana Muhammad Ali. Quran chapter 2, verse 29. It is he who hath created for you all things that are on earth. Moreover, his design comprehended the heavens, for he gave order and perfection to the 7 firmaments, and for all things he hath perfect knowledge. Translation by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Kasil, Hebrew Strong's number 3685, Job chapter 9, verse 9, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, Kasil, Hebrew Strong's number 3685, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south, Job chapter 38, verse 31 through 32, John chapter 8, verse 23, and he, Jesus, said unto them, Ye are from beneath, I am from above. I know, Greek, Strong's number 507. Ye are of this world. I am not of this world. Greek, Strong's number 507. I know, above, or Sumerian, Anu, the Most High. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. Our Father, who art in heaven. Greek, Strong's number 3772. Orenos. They will not accept what they read. Their God comes down to earth from above. His children who had sex with the Adam's daughters. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 and 4. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose, and came again to Taha, earth. Genesis chapter 11, verse 5 through 7. Genesis chapter 11, verse 7. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their tongues, language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So he appears, or can be seen in flesh. Genesis chapter 18, verse 1 through 18. Genesis chapter 9, verse 1 through 2. And look where it says in Genesis chapter 18, verse 1, Yahweh, Lord, appeared. Hebrew Strong's number 1700. Ra, to be seen, and is the exact same in Arabic's Quran, chapter 107, verse 1. Re, see. He could come in flesh and be seen physically right in their holy books. Same words, sis. And they still believe their gods can't be seen in the bashar, flesh, and is the same as found under Hebrew Strong's number 1320, basar. Then some as Christians say Jesus is God, Son of God. He came in flesh, yet from where? He tells them in John chapter 8, verse 23, I am from above. again in Greek, is Anu, the Sumerians or Mesopotamian Most High deity, the Heavenly Father, above one, An, highest one. And in Akkadian, it's Anu, El, Father of Enki. Also Shalim, dust. Hebrew Strong's number 7965. Judge, chapter 6, verse 24. And Enlil, also Shachar. Hebrew Strong's number 7836. In Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 12, of the Anunnaki. It's right there, sis. They would not accept. So, I took a long way, taught them each religion and lahaj, language, behind it, so they can see for themselves. He would be in the Torah, Genesis chapter 14, verse 19 through 22, Hebrew Strong's number 5945, and Hebrew Strong's number 410, Elyon El. 16. Question: I see. And is it working? Answer: yes, so well, that to stop me, you see, I'm in a prison and hopes to turn people away from Wunuwap. Yet, it will not work. Truth is truth, and from now until 2013 AD, many will come to know this is the Pa Madatat, the words, actual facts. The spell will be broken. I don't care what they do to my khatat body. The words are out. The spell of demonic religions is clean from the minds and ababat hearts of my own people. Now Wunuwap is spreading world over, and yes, it is working. In time, I will make it all clear by way of Patorok, the way. Let it be known by all that when I sit before my brother to ask him many things, I don't sit as a sister. I sit as a student of our master teacher, Panabab Yanun. This is the end of reading part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.